Sunday, San Francisco. Tarek Uslati was walking home when a gray Honda came speeding out of nowhere.
Didn't stop at all and went through the intersection.
The car nearly hit him. Uslati yelled, then saw the driver and a gun.
I didn't believe it. Was this guy pointing a gun? What's going on? Looked at me, pointed again, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is going to kill me.
He heard a bang. 2 bullets, fired from a Smith & Wesson .38 caliber handgun, tore through his body.
And after he shot me, and I literally was feeling and hearing the blood gushing, like...
The road-raged shooter changed his life forever. This is that shooter.
That was a really bad period of my life.
Easy Chang, that is his real name, pleaded guilty to assault by a firearm and served just 2.5 years for nearly killing a man he never met. Why? He was angry, and in his hands was an unregistered gun he thought couldn't be traced to him.
I had an unregistered gun.
Did that affect your thinking at the time?
Since it's not being tracked, I felt like I could do whatever I wanted with it.
The gun Chang fired that day can be traced back to an accused unlicensed gun dealer and part of a much bigger gun sales problem in the United States. CNN reviewed dozens of cases against alleged unlicensed dealers, some who sold hundreds of weapons, a flood of weapons without any background checks whatsoever. Guns often going to people prohibited from buying them because of criminal convictions, because they are drug dealers, because they are mentally disturbed. And CNN's investigation found many of these guns can be linked to violence across the country, to murders, assaults, armed robberies, suicide.
A lot of the firearms that I have seen recovered in violent crimes have come through the hands of unlicensed dealers. Some get prosecuted. I would say most do not.
Unlicensed gun dealers benefit from a vague federal law that says anyone engaged in the business of selling guns must have a license and conduct background checks, except those who make occasional sales for a personal collection or for a hobby. It sets no limits on the number. The problem is, unlicensed dealers often masquerade as those private sellers who have few restrictions. Thomas Chittum is a top ATF official overseeing the Bureau's operations in the western U.S.
The law doesn't require that I know your name or that I ask about your criminal history or your age or ask about your residency. Only that if I know or have reason to know that you're a prohibited person or a resident of another state or too young to possess a firearm, then I cannot transfer it to you.
So it's best to not know the person you're selling it to?
Well, I guess that would be up to the seller.
That is almost laughable. I think people will be shocked when they hear that coming out of your mouth.
It certainly presents some challenges for us.
CNN has identified egregious cases of illegal dealing, including a police officer who sold up to 24 guns, even guns connected to a homicide and other crimes, for years. A Defense Department employee with a security clearance who sold 200 guns to a crack dealer. A DEA supervisor in Arizona who sold a large number of weapons, including one to a drug trafficker. The vagueness of the federal law is one of the reasons ATF officials say the cases are hard to prosecute, which brings us back to Tarek Uslati.
All this area was like just all smashed, and it was blown out, just gone.
This is Sims Corner, Douglas County, Eastern Washington. Mary Hunt is a former county commissioner. Her husband Terry, a prominent wheat farmer. Along with their sons, Derek and Rusty, the family's side business for years, according to the ATF, was selling guns to just about anyone. Court records obtained by CNN show this Washington state family were prolific gun sellers dating back to 2009. They sold hundreds of guns at their table at the big Reno gun show in Nevada. No questions asked, no background checks conducted. In 2012, ATF agents even hand-delivered a warning letter to Terry Hunt telling him to stop. The family kept selling. The ATF has traced the guns sold by the Hunts to drug dealers, felons, crime scenes, even into the hands of a mentally ill person, all prohibited from owning firearms. And CNN's investigation including an admission from the shooter himself, found that the .38 caliber Smith & Wesson used by Easy Chang that nearly killed Tarek Oslati can be traced to Mary Hunt. Mary and Terry Hunt never responded to CNN, neither did son Rusty. This is Derek, who asked us to come into his trailer, no camera.
Do you want to come in real quick? Well, the rest of you guys just hang out here.
That was Derek. He is still on probation for another 2 years, he says, and doesn't want to talk about the case. I explained to him our story. I explained to him about tracking the guns to crimes. I explained to him in particular that a Smith & Wesson that ended up in the hands of Easy Chang, and that Easy Chang shot an innocent student on the streets of San Francisco, and he had no reaction. Despite the seriousness of the crime and years of investigation, the Hunts got off easy. A plea deal to a misdemeanor, no prison time, just probation and fines. Tarek Oslati now drives for a rideshare company. His dreams of a career in electrical engineering shattered by bullets that left him unable to focus.
Sounds like you've got almost a life sentence here.
Yeah. It's pretty unfair, isn't it?
Drew Griffin, CNN, San Francisco.